everyone, I'm back in Northeast Ohio in Medina County, and it's time for another Coop Tour. Guys, we've been invited to the Cluck and Quack Inn here in Medina County, and Marcy has been so gracious as to give us a tour of her super adorable coop. Marcy, how long have you been keeping chickens and ducks?
I got chicks and ducks for the first time in March of this year, and I instantly fell in love. So I will be doing this now till I'm in the ground.
So you didn't just start with chickens. You said all or nothing. We're going ducks and chickens.
I went to get chickens, and the little baby ducks were so cute. If they had opossums there, I would have gotten them too. I'm just an animal lover, and yeah, so wonderful. We did them both.
So what prompted you to get into poultry?
I had never been around any type of poultry. Grew up in a city and never knew this existed. And a friend of mine that doesn't live far from me, we were visiting at his house, and he has a huge coop. And when the girls started coming in to tuck themselves in at night, I was in love, and that was it. And so then we decided in the spring to get them.
Wonderful. So did you, just to kind of get a little idea of like how you went about choosing like your breeds, did you just go by what looked cute, or did you have like, this is what I want and this is what I'm getting?
I had no knowledge, and honestly, the Meyer catalog helped me so much after the fact. I already had my chicks when a friend said, look at this. So that was it. I love how it's set up. You can see all the breeds and their characteristics and everything about them. I had no idea. I was at a farm store and saw the little bins, and that was the only place I'd ever seen babies. So went with that.
Wonderful. And so did you get ducks and chickens at the same time, or was there like a little gap?
We got them at the same time.
All right.
Yep.
And so how did you decide on a coop? Because I know like that's like, what is the perfect coop setup? And just a reminder, there's no one size fits all. How Marcy isn't the only way to do it. The purpose of these coop tours is to kind of give you guys some inspiration in your own poultry adventure. So
how'd I end up with this? Well, I'm a physical therapist, and I know how important accessibility is for everyone. And so as I was going through my own healthcare journey and had hit my 4th or 5th surgery within a year's time, I knew that your body can change at the drop of an eye, or at the blink of an eye. So I knew I needed something that was easy for me to get in, get out, and take care of and keep clean, and that's why we ended up with something like this.
Accessibility is huge. We find that if you make it easy to clean, easy to access, you're going to get into it more often. Your coop's going to stay cleaner. Your birds are going to be more social because you're going to be around more. So I love that you kept that in mind.
I wanted a space where I could come and visit with them because I've enjoyed them so much.
Therapy.
Right?
Therapy.
It is. It's my own therapy for sure.
And you mentioned to me earlier you used to work in healthcare, but now you're at home, so this is your new job.
It is. I've been, because of my own health, I've been off since COVID started, which is crazy. I can't believe I haven't worked in that long, but this has become my therapy, my job, my everything, and it's been wonderful.
Chickens are much more than feathers and eggs.
Yeah.
They're your social life. They're the things that keep you up, get you up in the morning, keeping you active.
Yes.
So it's such a great investment. I love poultry. All right, so let's take a look at your amazing setup.
All right.
All right, so tell me all about this indoor space.
This is where all my storage is. We have food type items on one side, and then we have cleaning items on another. And before you go in, I always ask everyone who visits, because we love visitors, it says on the door, come in, we are awesome, but it also says, please use shoe coverings upon entering our home. It's very important to keep them safe from our germs, and we trek through a lot of stuff on a day-to-day basis. So I want to keep my babies safe the same way I would at my home. You take your shoes off there too. So I'm going to have you put shoe covers on and then use my Purell, and we'll be ready to go.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, Marcy, I see you have a lot of stuff for pest control over here. Can you kind of tell us about what you use and what works for you?
I started off, I had read online all of the things for more natural pest control rather than spraying heavy chemicals down. and I'm chemical sensitive, so I had to kind of take everything in. So I started with the vanilla, the little trees, the vanilla aroma, I think they're called. And it doesn't take me any of those to pack a wicked punch. When they wore down, I noticed that flies were landing on them. So then I would know it was time to replace them.
So you just hang them throughout your coop
I do.
space?
I have little like coffee cup mug hooks, and they're hung up high where the girls can't get to them. And then I also have an herbal blend of different spices, ground spices that I put in the chicken's dust bath. I also have some dried flowers that I use, and even catnip in there. Catnip actually relaxes chickens, and I had no idea about that. That was interesting, that I can sprinkle around where I want to. I just have to watch because the ducks like to just gobble everything up, so that doesn't last long. As far as, I also have the, over here, I grow my own mint, and so I try to do fresh mint sprigs in a couple different places to help deter pests. And what else do I have as you look around? I'm trying to think. So I have little bags hanging a few places around the coop, again where the girls can't get to them. And they have Irish Spring soap. And whether it works or not is debated online, but it's worked for me. So that's what we do. And the fan kind of pushes the scent from this one inside.
And I love that you have a fan. I find in my own barn that if I have fans blowing, there are less flying pests.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I usually turn the big one on. We have an exhaust fan on the other side that helps at all times. It's usually on. But the big fan, if flies start to pick up inside, if I turn that on, they're usually gone.
Wonderful. And that just helps with your ventilation and keeping everybody healthy and happy.
Yep.
All right. And so on the other side of this space, what's going on?
I have the items that are okay to leave at different temperatures. Some of the other little snacky items I have at home. They're supposed to be kept in a cool place. So over here we have, down here we have their food mixed and ready to go, and it's in a container that no little critters are gonna kind of want to come in and visit.
And it's out of the sun.
Yeah, it's the side that's out of the sun. We have the Sweet PDZ stall refresher, which was a lifesaver when we had the little ones and we were using straw and hay. And now that I have sand inside, we still sprinkle it over the top and rake it in as needed. And then we have their mealworm, their snackies. We got some Farmer's Helper kibble, of course the poultry grit.
This
that
is
all the
an
girls
organized
need.
person's dream, Marcy.
And the oyster shell, and then I have a few of the extra spices, the garlic if I want to add it to their water or feed, and then the vinegar with the mother, the good stuff, if I want to add a little bit to their water, and then a few other snacks and things on top.
And the date, just in case
well,
you need to know.
I have an egg calendar. So here's my egg from Mary Duck today. And I have an egg calendar. So let's see if I can get this on camera. Of course not. Every day when they lay, when they first started, it was July 1st. So we had our first 2 eggs. And I've kind of kept track. At first they were laying them on the floor, and I'll talk about that, how we got them to not do that anymore. Of course the ducks still do. And we only have 4 layers, but it's been interesting to keep track, and it helps me keep track of their health and if anything is going on.
I absolutely love that.
Thank you.
Now I'm dying to see all of these beautiful birds, but I did notice that you have these sweet name tags for all of them.
I do. I have name tags for all of them, so when you come to their home, you know who's going to be inside, except for Bobby Roo and Rosemary, who are our free-ranging couple, because Bobby Roo's a little wild, and they free-range just outside of the coop.
All right, let's take a look inside. All right, Marcy, so this shed that you've converted into a coop space, how did you, like, did it already come with nesting boxes and roosts, or did you kind of make it your own?
A little bit of both. This was an old barn that was used for goats, and then it was used for chickens. So it actually came with the nesting boxes here. We replaced the boards, and it came with this roost and the ladder, which was angled a different way. So we added another roost, changed the ladder situation, ripped out cabinets, The big thing we had to do, knowing that farm animals were in there before, was sanitize. And I had a couple different options as far as not having a scent and being gentle on me, and I bought a fogger, and it was awesome. I cleaned a few times and scrubbed everything down, and then we fogged and fully sanitized. So I like using something that's old, reusing it, especially with the price of wood that we've seen this
Yes.
year. So yeah, we made it our own, and then obviously added
Yes.
a lot of different stuff to make it happy.
And I have to ask, I wish you guys could smell this coop. Like, seriously, it smells amazing in here. What are you doing to make, I mean, we have the soap that's hanging and the vanilla trees to help with the pests, but this is a different smell. What am I smelling?
I think the biggest thing is I have a couple of scent sachets tucked there, one in the front. The biggest thing was Healthy Pen. I never knew I needed it until I was looking through, I think online with Meyer's, and that was what prompted me to go to the store for the first time. I had to get the Healthy Pen. It is heavenly, isn't it?
It smells better than anything in my house.
There's no
currently.
odor whatsoever of animals.
No,
so,
it doesn't.
Yeah.
It does
And
not smell like a coop.
I think the sand helps a lot too. We scoop it with kitty litter scoops. In the morning we scoop, and in the evening we scoop, and we really don't get many flies or.
So what made you
odor.
decide to do sand and not straw or shavings?
I researched a lot, and so when we had them in the brooders, we started with straw. I think we went to shavings at one point. Everything was just so dusty, and then we noticed that everything was so wet, especially with ducks. I mean, wet, wet, wet. And so I was dripping with sweat every evening because we were cleaning their brooder fully every evening. And I thought, I can't do this in a coop. There's no way I can do this, knowing the space we were looking to be in. So I kept hearing about sand, and finally I went online to see what type of sand, because that was very important. You can't get play sand or any type of fine sand that they're going to gorge themselves on and basically fill their crops and be miserable or die. So everyone kept saying construction sand. So I went further. We have 3 different, not quarries, but they go to the quarry. What are they called? Like a stone yard, I guess. We have 3 different in the area, and me being the protective mama went to everyone and felt their sand and made sure I had the right sand. And luckily the right sand was about 5 minutes away from us.
Wow, that's
So we
nice.
got a truckload of sand, which was $30, which is way cheaper than the straw and the shavings. So I'm glad it worked. A lot of people, my father-in-law, my husband said, this will never work. It's gonna stink, it's gonna be wet. It's amazing. So I'm glad it worked. Pat
Yes,
myself on the
good
back.
job.
But I would totally, if you have a big space, I would totally recommend it. It's way less expensive than the others.
That's wonderful. And I noticed on your roofs, you have a nice wide roofs.
Mhm.
And that is super important, especially here in Northeast Ohio where we get those really cold winter days and nights. That wider roost is going to allow your birds to pull their bodies way up over their feet so that you don't have frostbite problems or anything like that. So I love how you did that. But where do the ducks sleep? Because I don't think they're going to roost on those. Where do the ducks sleep at night?
Well, Mary, who's my favorite duck, she actually did sleep on a roost when she was
Oh,
little.
wow.
We had those little chicken plays, the little miniature roosts, and she would climb up there and take up the whole roost. So she would love to roost, but she can't get up here. The ducks, as far as we know, kind of gather in one corner in the evening. And Mary, who's the one laying right now, usually leaves her egg in the morning for me, but she switched to another corner. So they're liking corners for
Okay.
some reason. We had a whole box on the far wall here that was nothing but duck nests, and they never wanted anything to do with it. So to make more space and make it easier to clean, we took all of that box out. The same with these. The girls have never, I loved them. This was a selling point when we bought the old barn. The girls have never used this. They've roosted a few times, but that's about it. And they actually lay in a loft.
It's funny, people are like, well, what's the perfect nesting boxes? What's
What
the perfect
size?
coop? What
Yeah.
size? How many? And really, I think poultry keeping is a whole lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Because you can spend a lot of time and money making it how you think
Right.
they'll like it. but in the end, a lot of times they decide something else is better.
Yeah.
So keep that in mind if you're new to poultry or thinking about getting into poultry. Again, it's not a one size fits all. Not all ducks like corners. Some ducks love nests on the ground.
Yeah.
So just be prepared to be flexible and to be willing to adjust per your poultry's needs. So I noticed that you're using the turf material in the loft space where you say that they choose to lay. How has that worked out for you, and how did you decide on using the turf?
Again, I went online and did a lot of research. I'm kind of like that. I'm hearing myself say that, but it was important. Before I spent the money, I wanted to know what was going to work. And again, we didn't want to do the shavings or something we had to change out or something that would draw bugs or whatever. So we went with the artificial turf. And we can take it down, we can spray it out. But honestly, since they've been in here, where Clara is in the loft, we've never had to clean it. Where they nest to lay, they don't go to the bathroom. It's kind of an opposite thing. The only time we've had a few little accidents up there are from the new girls when they're hopping around checking it out. But the two that lay in there, no, they don't make a mess in there at all. If anything, it's dusty, and that's about it.
I definitely like the easy clean.
Yes.
Of the turf material. I know I personally use the turf nest pads in my coop at home. And I see we also have the vent pushing warm air and any nasty coop smell, which there isn't if there was one, pushing it out towards the back. Do you find that super helpful in keeping the bugs out as well?
It's been, we had such a hot, humid summer. I was really worried about everyone, and that's the fan that we leave on all night when it's warm out. Last night it dropped down to, what was it, 40s, 50? It was really cool, so we didn't have to leave the fan on, but basically all day and at night, if it's warm, it can easily get up to 100 degrees in here. So the farmer we bought this from had mentioned they put that in, and I didn't really understand the importance of it until we got the heat this year, and it's been a lifesaver. You can see when the birds start panning and lifting their feathers that they're miserable, and so I recommend a space with a fan for anyone.
And in this space, we have ducks and chickens. And you mentioned ducks are wet, wet, wet. I've noticed there isn't a waterer inside of the coop.
No. We have no food, we have no water, we don't even have snacks. Those are all outside in the run. And it was really hard to do that. I thought I was going to torture them, and even, a couple people online had said, you have to give ducks water 24/7. That's not true. I checked with the Indian vet. You have to give ducklings, babies, water 24/7. By the time they're old enough, fully feathered, ready to go out on their own, you don't have to give them the water overnight. So knowing that, we make sure at nighttime that they've all had their little drinks, like a good mama does.
Yeah.
I make sure they've had their drinks. The chickens are already in waiting on the ducks. And they get their water, and they've been fine, absolutely fine. And I think that's really cut down on any type of bug in here.
Yeah, it keeps it. There's nothing in here for varmints to want to come in and eat, and it obviously keeps your coop space, indoor space, a lot drier.
Yeah.
Because those ducks, they will take full advantage of water if it's available.
Yeah, absolutely.
So love that you've chosen to keep it outside.
The other thing we did, and I don't know if you noticed this, Amanda, I have candles that come on when it gets dark every night.
Oh my goodness.
And the reason I did those and I went with the red is because you think of the warming light that we start out in the brooder as the red glowing light. Well, the first few nights when we had the girls in our one guy, when we turned off the lights, they cried. And if you've ever heard a chicken or duck cry, it's the saddest thing in the world. Just so sad. So I got the candles on timer. So at nighttime when the chickens come in, these come on themselves. They stay on for about 8 hours, and it gives them a little bit of light. The chickens are blind at night. The ducks, they tell me, can see a little bit. But it helped them, and it helped me more than anything.
Peace of mind.
When I tuck them in at night, they have a little bit of soft light.
And the warm glow probably also helps to protect against predators.
I never thought of that. Yeah, and anything moving or glowing probably would help.
Absolutely. And I do love that you've used not just the chicken wire, but the square wire in all of your fencing areas.
The hardware cloth.
Yeah.
So It came with just the chicken wire in, but then we added the hardware cloth up to a certain level. We need to run it further up because I think anything that wants in would probably want to climb that. But so far it's been good.
But you have the outside doors that they have.
Yeah, the outside doors are fully secured and bolted and pretty predator proof, I hope.
Love it. Well, I'm not seeing the chickens and ducks, so they must be playing outside. So let's go check out their run space.
All right.
So I'm absolutely loving all the signage all over your barn. I mean, this screams crazy chicken lady in the best way.
That's me.
That's awesome. And I love that you have your run covered. And is this because you have a lot of aerial predators?
We do. And it was funny. You don't think you have them in their area when you take the chicks or ducks out when they're young, and you start looking and seeing those things flying overhead. So yeah, we put the netting overhead, and not just having the netting we do a safety check twice a day to make sure there's no holes, and when there are holes or something, we repair them with zip ties, and they're really important to me, so I want to keep them around.
And then I'm seeing along the perimeter, you also have the hardware cloth. Do you have it in the ground as well, or is it just around the perimeter?
It's just around the perimeter, but this fencing that we did here, we did run out a few feet in the ground also.
So that'll help with all the predators that would like to dig.
Right, and we haven't had any diggers. The only diggers we have are the ducks, so they're digging to get out.
Right. Or to get the bugs that are better on the
Probably.
other side of the fence, right?
Yep.
Just like the cookie jar at home, the kids can't take the one on the top, they have to dig to the bottom because that one has more chocolate chips.
And basically anywhere that, even on the bottom of the barn, we did anywhere we thought, we had to sit back, and it took us a long time. We didn't do this all at once. We had to sit back and look and think, if I was an animal, where would I go to get in? And we started seeing little gaps in areas, and even over here we had a little bit of an area that the fencing post came away, and so we stayed on it and kept adding hardware cloth where we needed to, and so far it's been okay.
Always adjusting. It's
Yeah.
never
Yeah.
perfect.
No.
Always adjusting. And I see you are using my all-time favorite predator product, the night guards. I swear by them. I use them myself. I always tell customers that's my favorite thing to protect against predators. They're solar, so they charge during the day, and at night they blink a red light, and you put them at the level of whatever kinds of predators you may have. And if a predator comes up, they see the red lights thinking that that's another predator, so they're like, someone's already there, I'm going to back off. And I love how you have them all throughout. So you've got all
We
of
ran them all the way around, and then there are two on the front door, about at the same level. And we had a nasty raccoon that was dining on the free-ranging food every night, and my husband kept watching, trying to trap him, and we never did. So we have lots of raccoons, we have coyotes, we have a lot of animals in the area. And if they get a taste for it, they're going to be back again and again and again.
They think that you are feeding them by
Yep.
providing what they like.
Right. And it's just natural for them. You know, you can't fault them. They're trying to feed their babies too and feed themselves. So I think that has helped a lot.
And I love how you have a shady spot. It seems a little cooler because I think I've been in Ohio about 7 years, and I think this is one of the hottest, most humid summers I have experienced.
It has been miserable. Yeah, we started out with a tarp. My husband was going for surgery, and so we got the tarp up the night before surgery just to give him some shade. The first windy day, the tarp was gone. It had ripped off.
Oh, goodness.
So we got a shade sail, and it's still not perfect. We're still adjusting, but it does give him a huge amount of shade. I can't believe how well it works. And
All right, so I see you have one of the pedestal waterers.
I do. We went with that initially when we were, especially the ducks. The ducks made such a tremendous mess as they were growing, and so we went with something that was lifted a little to try to help out a little. So we're still learning on the food and water for sure. You can see that there are buckets and things and bowls, and we're going to now build some type of a wooden platform to get it off the ground where the flies and everything in the poo are, so that we can place the bowls in holes. We're still learning on this. It's a learning process.
Always learning.
Yeah.
And adjusting.
And the water is just kind of everywhere since it's been so hot.
Yeah. And then you have feed, but you also have some grit options and oyster shell. Is that what it is?
Right. Yeah. Yep. We have both of those.
And the grit just helps the birds break down the foods that they're eating so that their crop, where their food gets broken down, kind of like your tummy, so it doesn't get clogged. Just kind of helps break it up and go down and digest nice and
And I
easily.
watch Mary, our oldest duck. She gets a really full crop usually every evening, which is to be expected when they're grazing. But the last couple mornings she was waking up with a full crop, and so I actually offered her some of the grit, and that helped it amazingly. Just took that puff away and gave me peace of mind.
Well, and I was always afraid when I first started introducing grit. It just looked like rocks, and I'm like, well, what if they eat too much?
Yeah.
Or how much should I give
And
them?
it's the same with the sand too. It has fine rocks in it, and we had to watch real closely at first that they weren't eating too much. And I think you find that when they realize something isn't good or nutritious, they kind of just leave it alone. And even with the grit, I had no idea. There's chick grit and there's adult grit. The chick grit is finer, so when we started letting the girls out in the yard to get grass and things like that, then we started offering the chick grit. And now that they're all here and adults, they're not adults, teenagers, I don't know, they're bigger. Now we can go to the adult size grit.
And you know, we don't give them enough credit. They're smarter than we think they are. They know when they need it. You offer it free choice.
Yeah.
They know when they need it, and
Yeah.
they know how much they need. And you'll find that they won't overindulge on those
No,
things.
those bowls will lay there until I feel I need to empty them and wash them and redo them. The food I'll fill at least twice a day. The food goes, but the other stuff, it is when we
yeah.
need it. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah. And then we've got little shade, more
We
shade
did the umbrellas to try to
options.
block some of the rain that we've been having. We're still trying to figure out what we're going to do with that. Probably put an umbrella on the platform to keep the bowls from getting wet and getting moldy.
Right. And then I absolutely love this duck pond. I know for those of you who are raising ducks or any kind of waterfowl, the struggle is real, especially if you're trying to use baby pools. What have you done here and why? I know you mentioned earlier before we got started that you started with baby pools.
Yeah. We started with a tiny little baby pool. And that was another thing too. I think the time, you know, how soon can I let my baby swim? That was a big thing. And so I would say research that and find out when you can let your baby swim. And we started them in the tub. And then when they started going outside when it was warm, we went with a really small baby pool. And then we moved to a bigger pool. And when we came over here, we took the bigger pool. But we were having to lift it and empty it, and it was nasty. Basically in one day, in a few hours, the ducks, and it was just Mary over here. She can make a mess of it. They like to dig in the ground and lift up the mud and plant it right down in the pool. So we started looking for a pond insert and pulled the old pool out, which was difficult because everything's enclosed here. So we pulled that out. We did the pond insert. We went with the rounded stones around it so they're not picking up that mud and putting it in there. They will pick up stones every once in a while. And we also wanted to go with something that wasn't going to cause them to have bumblefoot or any type of problem with their feet. And so far this has worked out. And then we had to figure out a filter system. So that's a whole other story.
And with the filter system that you're using now, you found, was it like a DIY?
It was. I think I was in a duck group on Facebook and I saw different filters that people had done, and some of them were so expensive and so complicated. And like I said, I haven't worked since COVID. I couldn't afford all of that, and most people couldn't. So they were crazy and huge ponds. And so we found one that was this homemade filter using basically a bucket, a trash can, or a storage tote, and different pipes you can cut on your own, and different types of filter material. There's lava stone or lava rock on the bottom, and then you have a layer of sponges, and then you have another layer of like a fiber of what you use for like a quilt backing or something, the untreated kind. But that's inside the big black container, and that helps filter. The only thing that we did spend a little bit on was the additional routing to the UV light, and that I recommend that hugely. With the baby pool, the minute we'd have rain or it would sit too long, we were getting this, it would come out and it looked like green cottage cheese. It was disgusting. and that was just the algae blooms. The algae was blooming in the water. The UV light, we have had no algae blooms since we did that. So I think it was around $100, but so worth it to not have to, think of your water bill when you're draining and doing all that.
And the manual labor.
And Daddy Duck felt really good about this one. We didn't put a drain in the bottom. You can put a drain in the bottom. You just have to seal it really good, and we were going to, eventually we'll route it outside so when we do need to drain it. For now, if we need to drain it, we use a sump pump and put it in there and go with that. But
happy as a duck in water, right?
Yep, and the chickens gather like it's their little beach.
And I love how you have some boredom busters for them in the pond.
Yep.
Just some wiffle balls, is that, or ping pong balls?
Some ping pong balls, because they float and they're big enough they're not going to swallow them. We had some little floaty toys. There's 2 of them left. One of them's on the bottom, I think.
And do they actually dive down and grab them?
You'll see their butts turn up. They haven't done it yet. They do. They'll dive down and try to get anything they can down there. So far, I think it's just rocks down there that they've thrown in.
All right, so Marcy, tell me about the sandbox. Do you have like little kids that come and play in here?
No. So ducks, and this is a thing I didn't realize until I looked at, and the worst thing I did is I got these babies and then I started reading and researching. If you want them, do your research now and save yourself the headache. So
that's a great piece of advice.
Oh gosh, huge. So the ducks actually get in water, take a bath like you and I, but chickens don't. Chickens bathe in dust. And we just put some sand, and I have the fresh herb mixes and everything gets added in there.
That's why I can smell it. I
can you
smell it out here too.
A lot of
Italian
type herbs are in there, and that helps when they bathe in there, and with the herbs it helps kind of deter any critter that might jump on them. So that's my little dust bath area.
I love it.
There's a lot
really
going
fun.
on. I know.
It looks really fun, and I'm sure the chickens absolutely love it. All right, Marcy. So if you had one piece of advice for a new chicken keeper, poultry keeper, or somebody interested in getting into poultry, what would it be?
Other than doing your research, realizing that if you're doing it for eggs, you don't need Bobby Roo. You don't need the rooster. If you want to pick the sex and you want to pick the breed, go with a hatchery like Meyer Hatchery. Going to the farm show is fun. They're peeping, they're cute, and I fell for it, but because of that, my heart was broken 3 times when I had to move Bobby out and get rid of my 2 ducks. So like I said, that when we ordered the ducks from Meyer and we were able to pick the sex, I even told one of my cousins wants to do this. I said, get all girls, go to Meyer, get all girls, and you're done. And raise them all together. That's another hint. I added here and there because we ended up with a rooster and then we wanted more girls. If you want 12, get 12. If you want,
Right.
And I know you add to them, but
it's a lot of work because you're brooding separately, you're integrating slowly. It's like a never ending. It's like a baby in diapers.
Yeah. So we've been at this since March, and our new ducks that came in June. So we finally just got them over a couple weeks ago. So that's a long time to be cleaning pens and so much. To do it all at once. Figure out what you want, and you'll add more later. I know that, but
I love that
for the
advice.
newbie, do it all at once.
Love it. Well, thank you so much, Marcy, for having us out. I absolutely love the Cluck and Quack Inn. It is adorable. Your birds obviously love it. If you guys liked what you saw today and want to learn more things poultry, be sure to keep following us on YouTube. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. Subscribe to our newsletter, and if you have any questions, be sure to chat us on the website, send us an email, or give us a call.